All right, well, welcome back, everybody, to our panel series. This is a production from the Climate Farmers Academy that is designed to answer the question and explore the topics that are the point of focus of our farmer community. Now, we're constantly talking about the difficulties of transitioning to regenerative management, all of the other things that are difficult and constantly changing in the world of agriculture. And one that is particularly relevant is what I thought to start off the 2026 season of the series on, which is this idea that we're all overworked. And it's not just farmers. I'm sure that anybody who's joining from a different sector can also relate to this feeling that there's just so much pressure and stress around our work lives. And this can be compounded by events around the world, things that are happening in our personal and emotional lives, and the result often leads up to burnout. And specifically for farmers, this has become a growing problem for decades as financial instability, weather vagrances, policy, and bureaucracy are constantly mounting. We've seen recent protests in the streets and in different places around Europe. A lot of farmers are kind of at their end. And so we thought to explore this from a number of different perspectives, of course, from farmer perspectives, as we always do here, but also from professionals in the field of psychology and counseling that can help us to navigate this from a professional perspective and maybe open up some new opportunities that we hadn't been considering otherwise. So, to get us started, maybe, Hedy, could you start with an introduction about what it is you do and how it is you work with farmers around this topic?
Sure. My name is Hedy, and I'm a holistic occupational therapist. And at the moment, I actually work with Abunda with the human dimension, the psychology lead side. And what we do is actually build partnerships that last. And we do that through actually also involving what most people forget, which is the human side. We do that through partnership dynamics and communication and conflict mitigation. Yeah,
Great.
so that's a little bit about that.
Very glad to have you here. And Ole, can you give us a bit of introduction on how you come into this topic and what it is you do for work?
Yes, I can. Hello, climate farmers. My name is Olaf Feiger. I'm from the Biohof Großdüssel, close to Düsseldorf in Germany. We do organic veg, meat, egg, and honey production. We do some teaching for kids for the Waldorf school that's close by, where my mother is also teaching. When I'm saying we, I mean my mother, my brother, and I. We are running this farm here. We have one full-time employee who's doing a lot of the machine work and a lot of the labor with the animals and stuff like this. And yeah, we're doing a lot of different things at the same time. We're also doing a chicken on tour, which is a chicken rental business, which we have been doing for 5 years now. So people can rent 4 chickens, a house, a fence, and everything that they need for 2 to 6 weeks. And they pay us quite a bit of money for that so that they can experience how it is to have some chickens for some time, which is a lovely thing and yeah, works quite well here in Germany. And this is a business that's been working quite well for us, and we've been like trying to reduce the amount of hours that we have to work. We've been doing some restructuring in the last year to basically cut 40 work hours out of that business and still make the same amount of profit by just restructuring and taking away the deliveries. So we already did a lot of re-evaluating there and changed a lot on the farm so that we reduce the workload there. Now we're trying to do the same thing for the farm. We've been up and going since 2023. We started officially with the organic farm here on our new farm, and we've been struggling. Let's call it like it is for the last few years now, because my mother is still a full-time teacher, but she's also doing a lot of the administration on the farm. My brother is doing a lot of the administration, but also a lot of the physical work. I'm doing a lot of the physical work and management in the garden as well. And there's just a lot of different projects that we're trying to accomplish at the same time. And for the last year, it's been feeling a lot. Like we're trying to get to all the fires at the same time when they're trying to pop up, and it's less of a managed thing where we know we're going and this is the routine and this is the SOPs that we are having. So we're trying to do a lot in that direction in this season, try to get less out of this firefighting mode and more into this mode of, okay, we're just doing a structured production and we already know what we're gonna do tomorrow. Yeah, so that's a little introduction for me.
Thank
And
you
we're
for that
feeding
answer, Ole.
about 200 families at the moment.
Excellent. And our third speaker today is Michaela. Would you like to tell us about yourself and what brings you into this topic?
Well, thank you, Oliver. And yeah, it was a fires putting down joining this. We had a little bit problems with that, but here we are. Yeah, I'm pleased to be here with Hedi and Ole, and my journey to this point and why I was probably requested. I've been working with farms in the beginning of my career, with smaller ones, with bigger ones. And now I'm a farm owner, and we are part of the transition program for climate farmers. But I think the main point for my role today is I've had two roles side by side all my working career. I'm a yoga teacher, and I run a healing center, a gathering center in Nuuksio, a national park. And at the same time, I've been working with the food sector, mainly with meat industry, but now with food exports. So kind of I'm looking at the whole system, I hope, not only farming. Then I'm not the right person. Thanks, we have Ole here. So I think we'll have a nice evening.
Thank you, Michaela.
Thanks.
We have a unique opportunity in this panel to frame it a bit as much as a narrative as a discussion of particular questions in and of themselves. And so Ole was nice enough to use himself as an example because I think it's very representative of some of the stresses and the difficulties that can cause burnout. So Ole, what you told us already, for me, makes it very evident why it is you've reached burnout. You've taken on so much on your farm and you're balancing this with managing some of the people that come in and out. Your mother, as you use as an example, is working full-time plus part-time for the farm. Everybody's stretched pretty thin, but can you give us an insight into what it is that causes stress or burnout in your team or for you specifically?
Yes, so I've written down basically my recipe for burnout and lower back pain, which I've been really successful in cooking up this season. I think we all have in this season, especially here on the farm, because as I said, we're still in the build-up phase of the farm, which is always a stressful time. I've heard like year 5, it starts to get easier. So we're still very much in the phase of building up all the infrastructure. As an example, last year, during the season in April, we built 2 more caterpillar tunnels for our cucumbers because we didn't have any space for them and they were already there. We couldn't get them in the field, but it was unclear if we would get the planning permission, and there were a lot of different things that were not clear yet because we hadn't done the planning in the winter. So one of the main factors that I keep coming back that really broke our neck a little bit this season was not having a full financial plan for the season, not having a full work plan. We did work with microfarm planner to get the crop plan in for the market garden so that we know when do we need to seed which things, which has already improved the productivity in the market garden by a lot. And it's way easier to know now what needs to be done the next day, reducing the mental load a little bit. But we definitely need to work more with the microfarm planner to really plan it. We did the planning in the winter, all good and well. We had a lot of time in the winter and we're planning with our winter time and our winter time availability. And then you come into the summer and there's a lot of different projects going on. And then all of a sudden you have to do what you planned for the 24-hour day. You have to do now a 70-hour day. And then you have a long work list and it keeps getting longer. So you say to yourself, okay, I should just do a 6 to 7 day work week, which honestly, a lot of us do when it is needed. I'm pretty sure none of us are lazy people here in this call who are like, yeah, now I'm just gonna slack off. We all know that to-do list and how it's growing. But to really look at it long term, 6 to 7 day work week does not work if you do not take rest days. So I heard the phrase athletes in overalls again and again, which I think is very fitting because, yeah, if you look at what athletes are doing, they're training 2 to 3 days high intensity a week. Then they're taking 2 days for cardio and maybe then 1 to 2 days of recovery. Farmers are also often doing more than 3 days of the high intensity workout. And then on the next day, there's still something to do. And then on the Sunday, oh, you see something while you're walking through the garden. And all of a sudden it's sundown and you have worked another 5 hours on Sunday while you said you wanted to take a free day. So yeah, I've been doing that a lot, saying this season that I would take my 3 days, but I didn't actually take them. So I didn't. This has to really change for this season, that it's clear for everybody on the farm and clearly communicated who has their free day on which day, so that it's also clear who is responsible on that day. So that on a free day, you actually can switch off your phone and you are not reachable, and it's okay for everybody else on the farm. Generally, this communication part about when you have the fitness, when you are able to work hard, and also communicating early enough with the rest of the team members when you know you're already declining in your back health, for instance, or your mental health is suffering because there you've been just going and feeling like you're in it alone, which of course is not true. I'm doing it with a team. But sometimes when you're standing on the field there in the middle of the night and still collecting eggs while it's dark because you didn't get to it in the daytime, sometimes it feels a bit alone, and then it can really help to have this connection with other people, with our customers. They're coming in and telling us each week how amazing our products are, which is really like nourishing the soul a lot, which is really helping a lot to feel that value of being a farmer, having that little chat with the people that are coming by the field and seeing how the field transformed over the years is giving a lot of that appreciation back, and it's really helping with, making this feel like a good and really good endeavor. But at the same time, it is a really hard endeavor. So we have to make sure that we're not working 6 to 7 days a week. Otherwise, it's gonna break our neck. Last year, we also scaled up very quickly with our deliveries. We started vegetable deliveries, and I was basically starting the Tuesday, harvesting everything, washing everything, getting everything ready for the store, packing the boxes, putting the boxes in the car, driving my delivery route, and then I'm home at like 9:30, walking my dog, falling into bed, starting next morning 6:30 again for the next harvest. I mean, we're already still lucky. We have a really diverse working field. We have a lot of different tasks here on the farm. I'm not the standard farmer with 15-hour workdays, just corn harvest. At least I'm lucky for that. There's a lot of different work tasks, but because we're small, we also have to do a lot of human power. So shoveling compost by hand instead of the tractor. We're quite small, so we cannot afford to get all the infrastructure that we actually would need, like the good wash pack station and stuff like this. So it's slowly building. And I've been sometimes struggling with this, looking at the to-do list of the day and then just seeing all the things that need to get done and all this complexity of, if we decide something for the chicken on tour, then we have to also make sure that it fits for the farming context and for the family context. This complexity makes it really hard to plan during the season. So again, taking this recovery time in the winter and actually saying, we can't do anything on the field, so let's not stress about it. Let's really sit down, do the season planning. We're talking a lot in the family, how we're gonna do the season, how we're gonna change, if we're gonna do veg deliveries, if they're even profitable. We're doing all the business plans, trying to figure out which parts of the enterprises are profitable, which makes sense to continue, which should we scale up, and which should we scale down. So really trying to evaluate before the season to reduce the stress already. Yeah. So that's a little bit about that. Maybe somebody else wants to jump in now.
Oh, that's a fantastic insight into the amount of complexity that you're navigating and how easy it is to fall into overwhelm when there's so many stacked obligations on top of each other, especially in certain periods of the year. I want to go to Hetty now. I'm curious in reflection to the story that Ole has given us, how that tracks with your experience speaking with so many different farmers and understanding the stresses and the difficulties that they face.
Yeah, so where to start? So something I see that is very common is that farmers tend to be unstoppable. They just move forward and they don't stop until something physically stops them, like winter, when it's impossible to actually move. So they keep burning out that way. So you're actually mentioning it yourself, Ole. You put on so much weight, but you're also aware that you have to take time off to actually come back to that same energy levels. But what I find interesting is that people tend to think that it's a lot of the physical and a lot of the economical, all the other stuff that is outside of our body and outside of our control that is why we burn out. That's not my experience. My experience, and that's not just with farmers, it's with every human being that has a consciousness. We tend to burn out because we spend all of our energy fighting the past that we can't change or worrying about a future we can't control. Being in that mindset, we're stuck in the middle. We are buried in thoughts that we cannot change, we cannot do anything about them. So we freeze in that moment instead of finding or creating solutions or even listening to our own bodies. We get stuck in our heads worrying. And that just builds up because that takes away time instead of giving more. And we think that thinking so much gives us more time at the end because we might get to a solution, but not with the way we do it.
And Michaela, how about yourself? Listening to Ole and then your own experiences on the farm and with other members of your team, how does this track with the difficulties that you face and the people who come to you for assistance?
Well, first of all, I think I could use some examples here, could use some earlier examples here as well. The regenerative community and this size of the farms are newer to me. And I think it's very interesting to hear you, Ole, because at some point I was consulting the biggest pig units in Finland, which were big 1,000 sow units. And the burnouts were not from the same reasons I can hear from you, Ole. There was a lot of weight, and I could also see a lot of struggle financially, but also pressure from the earlier generations of how it's always been done and it's how it's supposed to be done. And here I see more the passion which is driving you. And the passion is driving, so it's like on more regenerative focus in how you want to do. Like I really see when you talk, you love what you do, right? And
Yes. So we're lucky that we're first generation farmers. So my mother,
yes,
my brother, and I, we decided we want to do this. So we don't have this backlog of this is how we used to do it. So we can come in with new ideas, which is helpful,
yes.
but also hard.
And this is interesting because the big farms, they have a heavy load of a lot of the farmers didn't choose to continue. And I think this is an interesting discussion here we have in that. And as I see from my yoga students as well, I have a lot of burnout or mothers with busy lives, young kids. And the same is here. You want to give so much, yet there is only one you. But what I could say that helped me and have helped a lot of my yogis was that we start to think about that love is a space that you create to somebody else to become themselves. And that's what you're doing probably with your team, with your family. And we are doing that at Climate Farmers as well. But what we are not really good at is creating that space inside of us. And my question to you, Ole, would be that when you said you actually have the team, but then you kind of need to be there. You need to be there. You want to be there. So could you think about it, that could you create the space for your team to take care of you? And I think this is what we, like people who think about the future or wanna work with open heart, have a lot of difficulties with. We want to give, and give. But how it would feel for the other people of the team to really, when you say that, I'm so tired, will you take care of me? Like, will you do this? You would create them a space to love you. But I don't know, do you do that? Please tell me. I would love to hear.
So since I'm farming with my family, I'm quite lucky in that regard that there's already a closer bond there than there might be with somebody you just started working with. So I already get a lot of care there, but also from our customers, since they're seeing us each week and they might see me like, hobbling over the farm because I pulled my back again or something. And they will ask about how my back is doing when they see me next week. And one of our clients is a physiotherapist, and we're trading some vegetables for physiotherapy sessions so that I actually get some care that way. One of our clients is doing the acupuncture, and she saw me being in pain and just came up with the needles and was like, "You want some needles in your ear?" And I was like, "Sure, why not, if it helps." So by having built this small community of 200 families roundabout that are fed from our vegetables each week and are coming each week with the subscription, this already builds or made them closer than standard customers would be, so that there's already some help in the team. So we have one guy who's doing a lot of the work. When he sees that I'm not eating well in the times when my family is away, he will bring me some food sometimes and make sure that I'm doing well. And also in the team, when we have co-workers, last year we had a co-worker in Chicken Tour, we would always make sure that they're well taken care of, but they're also asking how we are doing. So we're trying to create the opportunity for this common love and common taking care of each other. But we're not a big team.
So, from everything that's been said so far, I'm under the impression, and also because of many other people's contributions in the community about how they deal with burnout, that some of this stems from an inability, either perceived or real, to set some boundaries on how far you're not willing to go, either physically or mentally, or, those break down when you build it up in your head that, oh, I could just do this one last thing, or I could work a few more hours and then it won't be an issue tomorrow. Maybe, Hetty, you can start by addressing the root of this. Why is it so hard to set boundaries in these contexts, and what are some steps that might be able to be taken in order to reinforce them or actually observe them?
Yeah, well, it's hard for a lot of people to set boundaries, and that stems from different things because we all react differently to the emotions we have. But usually it's to either avoid that we don't want to feel misunderstood or feel like we're a burden or feel like we're too much or asking for too much or being difficult or rejecting others or being not the person who says yes, or we feel like if we put up boundaries, we will be a disappointment, basically. That's the feeling most people have. So they feel like it's hard to put up boundaries because they have an inner fear most of the time of being abandoned from setting those boundaries, that people will not accept that they have boundaries, that they have to be compliant and always say yes and always be available. And if they're not loving those people. They mix putting up boundaries with not loving. It's not the same because when you put up boundaries, you are doing what you're supposed to. You're loving yourself. By loving yourself, you are putting boundaries up to protect yourself, not to reject others, not to abandon others. So if that's what others feel, it's not real. But that's what we believe because we lose the ability to believe in ourselves. So we continue to please other people. And we do that to survive. not alone. So we keep having that community because we give so much of ourselves and expect nothing back. And even if we do expect anything back, it's so little that we settle for the bare minimum because we have such a hard time asking for help and even harder receiving that help when it's there.
And everything you just said really landed for me. I feel that that's something I struggle with. Many of the people that are in our community really have issue with. And I mean, it comes from a good place, right? Like trying to give and provide and care for others, but often forgetting to do the same for ourselves. Michaela, does that track with your experience as well? Do you have any ideas on how to reinforce boundaries or set them up in the first place so that you can take care of yourself in this process too?
Wow. Yes. And have I been struggling with them? Wow, so many years. And I think that's one of the things we need to really, really work on, because the people who join regenerative communities or whatever we are doing, trying to operate on another level, the heart is open. Yet we have forgotten how to live in communities, how to help each other. And just I had an indigenous wisdom keeper visiting here in Espoo last autumn, and she made me realize how far actually we are. We are always connected with the nature, but we have forgotten that. And even like in this community, like we need to understand that if we cannot disagree and be a failure, be a disappointment, we will not evolve. We will not go forward. And I think that's also kind of, we have 1 year behind us with Lisa is actually their wife of Andre, who are farming at the farm I inherited and bought last year. And I think the biggest learning there as well has been that we have gotten help with the boundaries so that we have an extra person who understands holistic farming, who makes us sit down, who makes us listen and answer. And we go through really difficult things and really painful moments. And that's when you're kind of like, you feel like you're a failure. And if you're able to sit with that together, you will end up somewhere which is fulfilling for both of us, not only us, but like me, we, and us. So it's for me, it's for we, and it's for us. So yes. And how to do it? Personally, I know, Hedy, you can tell something about the body or breath and mind connection, but my advice would be really starting talking about people who understand holistic management, not only uniting the people, the nature, but also the economics, because that's a huge pressure that is also burning us out. But I love the fact that, like, after this first year we went through, like, what did we hate? And then we thought, like, how can we get rid of that? Like, totally. It really changes the perspective. So my recommendation, use the people who understand holistic management, take them almost like your therapist sitting there. Take time to talk difficult things in safe places. That's my experience.
That's really good advice. And I think it's easy to apply it quite broadly too, right? Whether you're farming or not, these moments of reflection and the ability to do them with the other people who are involved, either in the enterprise or the family or who are connected to the system, is going to lead to insights. If nothing else, just the reminder that you're in it together. Because I know, Ole, you're talking about the reoccurring feeling that I can definitely relate to of like, I'm all by myself doing this. And that just adds so much more weight to everything that's already going on. I'm curious if you've considered or worked through some of the things that Hedy and Michaela have already mentioned, because I know how thoughtful you are about this process. In fact, you've already talked about plans to recover and to work ahead of prevention for the next season. Have you considered some of the things that they mentioned? Are those part of your plan?
So yeah, especially the last point with the boundaries. I have a little example there. For me, this very important thing with boundaries is really shifting the mental idea of this boundary of not being a no, but really being protecting your yes. So if you're constantly saying yes to everything, yeah, because I want to do everything at the same time. Believe me, I want to start a worm farm. I want to do this. I want to do a lot of different projects at the same time. And every time somebody comes with an idea how we can improve this river or do whatever, I want to start there. But yeah, teams and stuff like this to actually be able to do the work. So yeah, the setting the boundary is really protecting the yes. And a boundary that we set last year, we were starting into the season. We were basically at the same time, like now, a little bit later in February. And in March, our chicken on tour season starts. And last year, we were still planning to do around 5 to 6 deliveries per day for 5 to 6 days a week. And we were paying one person for 40 hours a week to do this work. She was also getting paid through the whole winter while there was no actual work and stuff like this. And then just before the season started, there was some back and forth there, so that we had to like sit down just before the season and re-evaluate the whole chicken on tour business, if we can keep going without that worker or not. And then in one day, from one day to the next, there was this idea of, we don't want our customers, or we don't want to lose our customers that we're delivering the chickens to, because we were quite afraid if we stop doing the chicken rental deliveries, that all the kindergartens and schools and elderly homes will not rent our chickens anymore. But we actually changed that shortly before the season. And now all the kindergartens and schools are just sending their facility management staff to pick up the chickens. So now we cut out a whole transporter. We cut out a 40-hour work week person to do all the deliveries. We cut out all the fuel, all the maintenance, all the other work. And now finally the chicken on tour, the chicken rental, is finally getting more profitable, because now we're down to 8 hours instead of doing so much more work and doing a lot of extra planning work, which was really stressing out my mom, because this was the main thing in the chicken rental business, the deliveries, that was really complex to plan, to get everybody on the same route and make sure that the kindergarten's at the right time and stuff like this. So we cut out a lot of complexity. We cut out 40 paid hours. And now we can just do it on our farm by ourselves, 8 hours a week. And we do the same amount of customers. So protecting this, yes, we still want to do the chicken business, but we don't want to do all the other things, was really helpful to cut a lot of hours out. And we're doing the same reevaluation right now for our vegetable delivery for the farm, because we're doing between 10 and 15 euros per average per box. This is not profitable. We need 30 to 50 euros per box. If we can get the customers there and tell them, yes, if you order 30 euros, then we can deliver. Otherwise, we will stop delivering, and protect our yes in this way, to make sure that we actually can deliver everything for the people coming to the farm, and focus on the things that are really important this season.
Well, these examples that are so specific to what you're going through are hugely useful for framing the concepts that we're talking about and seeing how it actually plays out in somebody's enterprise. I want to go back to this idea that it's so hard to say no, because while I absolutely agree with the framing that you put out there, this idea of protecting your yes, you also mentioned the same thing that I have experience with, is the desire to say yes to everything. Yeah, you want to do all of these projects because you see how they could help others, how they could bring benefit either to your own business or to the community. Maybe, Hetty, you can give me an idea about this internal stress that comes from almost an activist mindset, right? Of this obligation to do good and to show up, and the stress that comes with that. How do you navigate that in your mind and still protect your boundaries and still protect your own health?
That's actually a really good question, because the thing is that it's a mix of this burning activist inside. But I'm going to say something now that might make me unpopular, but that's okay because it's the truth. We have something to protect ourselves, which is called an ego. Our ego is what drives us to be competitive, to want more, which is actually a different kind of greed because it makes us impatient. We can't just do one thing and then be patient with that and see it grow and flourish. We want more green stuff, more success, more good things. We get greedy, and that makes us impatient, and that's what makes us have so many things that we can't handle because it's too much at the same time. So I want to go back to an example you were talking about, Ole, when you had that brief moment before you with the chickens. You had a brief moment of the fear, right? You were afraid of what will happen. Will they all just abandon us? They will abandon us, right? So the same feeling in a one-on-one dynamic can appear with a one and multiple dynamic. And that fear, if you were to get caught up in that fear, that would have kept you stuck in your head, worrying, trying to control the uncontrollable, and seeing the outcome as a personal failure instead of what it just is. It's just not the way you imagined it, so you have to be creative and think in different paths. You didn't get caught up in your fear, which is very admirable. You kept going, you were creative with your thinking. It didn't keep you down, you got back up. And that's the overcoming the fear, because you have to sit with it. Just as Michaela also said, like, you can't avoid it, the uncomfortableness, the feeling that you have to go around the bad stuff. The bad stuff is not bad stuff. The bad stuff is actually what teaches us the things we haven't learned yet. But if we don't see it that way, we will put a label on it as a failure, and we will put a value to that, and we will put that value on ourselves, believing we're not good enough. Well, our effort was not good enough. Our planning was not good enough, when it's not about that. So we limit ourselves, and we have to be aware of these things, because if we're not aware of them, we can't change it, because it's a pattern, it's a spiral. We have to break it. It's not going to break itself.
Yeah, there's work to be done there, huh? Michaela, would you like to contribute on this too? How have you found, either for yourself or for your clients or the people that you work with, to navigate this internal desire to do everything all at the same time and help everyone, and still somehow draw boundaries and protect your own health?
I come from Finland, where women went through the war as well. So we took care of the farms, and we were always okay, and we could handle everything, right? I think the balance, as you said, the ego is also needed, but so is your virtue to be found. Virtue being something that you're born with, and all of us being different. I use nature mostly, so I would talk here about biodiversity. Like, I don't see all the people there at the moment, but I'm sure we are good at something, and we are really good at something. But is it enough? As you said, Hedy, is that enough? So lots of the times, what we are good at and what feels pretty natural, that's probably something we should be doing. Like, let's take an example that where I live, we have bush blueberries, and they love it here. But we've been trying to grow tulips for several years, and we probably put into the ground like 300 of them and got maybe 3 up. So it's like if we're satisfied all with what is. And here I also want to add on, because like last year, in a difficult moments in December, I took actually Climate Farmers calendar, and I looked at those pictures, And then there is this saying that this farm is a part of something bigger. So that was just like coming to the fact that even I would fail, even I would never succeed, even we, Lisa, Andre, even if we wouldn't make it, we're trying something with other people. So it's a lot of the times like taking both your ego and virtue away first, like coming to the understanding. And even I told this to my father, who never had the chance to farm regeneratively or whatever. He was taught how to do it. He was fucking good at it, and he made it big and producible and blah, blah, blah. But like stop on the fact that even we wouldn't succeed, or we would, the heart will beat and nature will be there and we will be a part of that. And then simply build on top of that. But I think that's something that most of the people come to my classes or to the threshold triatila that I'm sitting in, is just to understand that they are alive, and that's enough. And when you start from there, it is much easier to see through the whole chaos, like what is really my duty in here. And even though I've been talking long, I would like to add one thing, that virtue might be that I love this version in Bhagavad Gita, which is one of the books in yoga, which says that some of us are born with a really, like, you can't compare like somebody does this and somebody does this, but very simple task and simple life. And some of us are made to create something huge, Eiffel Towers and stuff like that. Those are not to be compared. And the one who is building something huge will probably have a lot of experiences, travel and do stuff. But I love the verse in there that the one with this more simple role usually is happier. So either or, you're lucky because you get to experience, you get to do stuff, or then you just simplify to simplify. So it's, I don't know, I go back to the basics, that I'm alive, and then what?
Very important reflections there on reconnecting with the basics, the things you can be grateful for, and maybe your core motivations for doing this in the first place to prevent being overstretched and eventually reaching burnout. Now, Ole, you've also talked about having an active plan for recovery and prevention for burnout in the next season. Not only have you built some valuable experience, but you've clearly thought a lot about this and coordinated it with your team. Can you tell us about your strategy moving forward to do things a little better next time?
So the 2025 season was really a trial season for us in many instances. Before that, for 2 seasons, we had different gardener. And this season, my brother and I took over the garden. And yeah, really hit the ground running with 120 subscribers in the beginning of the season and 200 at the end. So there was a lot of like just trying to catch up and trying to learn everything at the same time. We've tried a lot of different things in the store as well to like figure out what works for us, what works for the customers. We found a good payment system where we take the money from the account directly every single month, and it's always the same 200 families, which makes this easier. So we're trying to like make everything, all the administration side, as easy as possible so that we can focus on the things that are really important. And right now in the winter season, we get all the vegetables delivered from other farms. So right now I don't actually have to work a lot. I have maybe 1 to 2 days of actual hard work in the winter, sometimes like shoveling some snow and stuff like this. But right now it's really the rest and recovery season. So I signed up for the gym. I'm going there twice, sometimes 3 times a week. I'm doing some sauna, I'm doing some yoga, I'm doing some stretching, I'm doing longer walks in the winter with my dog to like get and keep some of that fitness. I'm trying new recipes and trying to like get back into cooking there a bit, like already get some good ideas for the season, what we can do in that regard. And really trying to focus in on what is my personal ikigai, this concept of this intersection of what you're good at, what society needs, and what brings you joy. And for me, that is having this connection with the customers. So for this season, I'm definitely gonna be working a bit more in store. So having more of that connection with the customer that I had the year before with the deliveries. Also trying to like have only 2 high power working days a week where I'm doing like really high intensity workout basically while working during the season, and then do 1 day after do the less stress day, so that I will, for instance, be at Chicken on Tour, just giving out the chicken houses to people, which is an easy task to do. You're just standing around talking with people and telling them what to do. And then on the next day, it's carrot harvest again, and then you're in it and like really working. And yeah, really planning the week a bit better this season. My mother is also joining us full time for the summer. She is quitting the teaching position and doing more of the teaching directly on the farm. So also again, trying to lower that administration burden on my mother with all the teaching stuff. Now she's just teaching on the farm to, yeah, try to reduce all the unnecessary things that are not actually helping the end consumer or the child in the teaching space. So yeah, really trying to organize everything a little bit better. We're gonna build now a tool shed right next to the field and not a little bit off, so that we have shorter walking ways, build a better pack and wash station, so that we gonna hopefully save some time and stress there. But I think the main thing that will really help a lot with the stress from last season is having a bit more of a clear idea where we're heading as a farm, having a bit more clear financial plan. I have to say we're a bit, as a family and organization, a bit more complex, because we're not just a farm, we're doing a lot of different things. So that's still a little bit hard. We're still working on trying to figure out what is the things that are actually making us a lot of money, which are we actually paying for, stuff like this. So yeah, trying to get the planning better and trying to like cut maybe 10-15% of the hours off this year just in the garden.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you've done a lot of thinking about this, and I'm probably going to try and integrate a couple of these ideas as well while there's maneuverability in the down season. Hedy, perhaps building on some of these ideas that Ole mentioned, can you give some advice or some ideas for tools or techniques that others can use to help to not only recover from burnout, but perhaps prevent it in the future as well?
Definitely. So I have worked on something, a framework that I call the resonance field. This is very effective because it's very simple. It has 3 key cores. And these 3 key cores is not a tool. It's not something you carry with you physically or something you have to remember that bad. It's a state of mind that you have to want to be in. The 3 key cores is acceptance. I want this, so I accept whatever outcome comes with it. I accept the ups and the downs. I accept that I do my best. I accept if it succeeds or fails. I accept it all because it's what I want. So when you accept it, you stop worrying, because you accept you will have setbacks, you will have downfalls, you will get back up, and you will continue. That gives you the opportunity to not be in your head with your worries about the future or all the things that usually fit up in your head. You don't have to do that anymore because you accepted it, no matter what it is, right? It's what you want. So now you can be present in the moment. That's the second core key, being present. So first we learn how to accept so we can be more present whenever it's needed, which is most all the time, but that's hard for most of us because we're in our heads. But being aware of this, we can be present, so we can make great decisions, we can be creative, we can be authentic, we don't have to think too much about it because we are here now. We are not 2 months or 2 years ahead, and we are not 3 months behind. We are here now. and I accept whatever comes. And then the last one, which is the most important one, especially for farmers, patience. A lot of patience, because that's what most people lack. And when we lack patience, even when we think we believe in ourselves and we know we did our best, if we have an idea of how the outcome might turn out or how long it's going to take, we try to control the outcome. And if it doesn't turn out that way, if it takes longer than we anticipated, we're going to run out of patience. And that's where we start doubting ourselves or start panicking and try to fix things and figure out solutions instead of just keep being patient, trusting that I did my best. Anything other than that is out of my control. So back to the acceptance again. So the accepting, being present, and patient. And it's hard. It sounds easy, but it's very, very hard. I am aware of that. But just as well as we can wake up and have a bad day for no reason, we can decide to have a good day for no reason, if that metaphor made sense.
Absolutely. That's really valuable advice for so many things in life. I think the practice and the cultivation of that mindset can help anyone. Michaela, can you add to that? Can you give us some ideas of techniques or practices or tools that you found help with either managing or avoiding burnout?
Yeah, well, rituals, that's one thing, just creating something to your everyday life. And for me, it's been more that most of the people have those rituals already, or they would have them really close by. So not like figuring out that every day I will do 20 minutes this or this, but start with the fact that you will realize your own rituals. And when you're gone away from them, one of them can be like taking out your dog and being present with that. Maybe if you have a bus ride, just instead of scrolling, like put your phone down and look out from the window, like small, simple things. People who haven't been meditating, if you hunt or spend time in the forest, look at the lake, just be present there. And I think one important thing I would like to add here that both of my yoga teacher and more in like generations of wisdom and nature connection teacher, both of them agree on that the future is in communities and the healing will be in communities as well. So a lot of the times we are asked to change our lives and do things and take control of this. And I would ask us to also sit down with the fact that there is like me and then we. So who is your we? Like who are the closest ones to you? And just sit with the gratitude of those ones. And I mean, the nature is your partner in crime here. And one of my favorite scientists in Finland called Soja Sadeharju is making her PhD about the intuition that farmers have in decision making. And her last paper was about nature being your partner. So who is we? Who is you at your farm? Who is we? And how do you heal we? And that's what we are doing. We are growing soil. We are like healing soil, and it's the whole community there. And then who is us? And there I come to the fact with climate farmers, and that helps me to be a smaller part. So in the end, I'm actually so tiny of this whole process, but so needed. I'm part of something bigger. And again, then it's easier to accept, as Hedi said there, and let go. And while you do that, then you're pretty clear, like, what is the next shift you need to do? So it's not about we could just sit down and float somewhere, but it gives the easiness, the alignment that we can do it. And today I'm too tired. Please help me. Dare to ask help. That's one thing I had so many years I struggled with, even with my husband. While you give your partner the space to love you, when you tell them, I need you, today I need you, you give space to love. And it's awesome when you learn that, because then it starts to flow. Yep. I can't hear you, Oliver.
No worries. Those are beautiful words to wrap up my portion of this, but I want to open it up now to listener questions. So if anybody has a question, I will prioritize the people who put up their hand digitally. You can do that with the reactions button at the bottom of your screen. And if you would prefer that I read your question, feel free to write them in the comments as well. There's been a lively chat going on in there. So sharing book ideas, summarizing some points. You guys have been doing an awesome job. So if anybody would like to ask their question, go ahead. It's open for you. Well, while we're waiting for someone to gather their courage, don't worry, I have plenty of other questions, so I can fill the space. Ole, so you've been very interactive in the group for a while, and we've been talking about this question for plenty of time, hearing different people's strategies. Where do you draw inspiration from? Because I know, based on how you've designed your farm and the entrepreneurial mindset that you have, I know some of your influences as well, and some of them are famous for burning out and taking on too much. This is also the problem that I have, is that I look up to people who are not always the best example of moderation. Do you have any inspirations or places of guidance that give you something to strive for that is a little bit more down tempo, a little bit more moderated, rather than this go, 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 accomplish, accomplish, accomplish mindset?
So yeah, I've been definitely following the more of the go-getters. So like Curtis Stone, Richard Perkins, Elliot Coleman, like the standard names that I think everybody has heard in the market gardening space or in the regenerative space. I've been looking into some of the work of Alan Savory. I've been like looking at everything for quite a long time now, but my main inspiration for like trying to get the farm a bit more organized, get like lean and Kanban in there maybe a little bit to like organize the farm a little bit more has been definitely Ben Hartman with Clay Bottom Farm. I'm gonna also write the name in there. He has been doing a fantastic work. He has, I think, 3 books out now. The first is just on lean vegetable farming, and the second and third are on lean vegetable farming and micro farming, and another one where he's just talking about how can we as a farm get smaller, still make enough money that we can make a good living, but at the same time reduce the delivery space that we have to deliver to, for instance, make the systems easier by maybe doing tarps, by improving different systems, stuff like this, but improving it in a human way. So having this lean component efficiency, but with the human component, and not saying, okay, this what we're doing with the handwork is super inefficient. We're just gonna get a huge tractor and plow everything up and put the vegetables in that way. That does not work for us. So it has to work within the systems. So Ben Hartman has really big inspiration in that way, because he's also on the journey of like trying to get smaller and trying to make it work with the family and everything. That has been really helpful.
I can definitely second that one. I interviewed Ben for the podcast a little while back, so I can send that link if anybody's interested, as well as what Michaela was talking about earlier, the utility of connecting with your context, the holistic management framework, and there's a network all over Europe that help people to set these things up for themselves and navigate the complexity of their operations. And I'm curious for Hedy and Michaela as well. So do you have case studies or points of inspiration that you can point to as like, these people are doing it really well? You know, because I have endless examples of people who are struggling, but I can't think of that many who really shine a light as to this is a possibility for what can be achieved when balance is obtained, when moderation is accepted, when enough is a concept that is embraced. Either one of you have some ideas there? Michaela, would you like to start?
Well, in Finland, we actually have, even in the farmers' organizations, we have had this Välitä viljelijästä, which means care of the farmers network. So it's been for a long time, they've noticed that the farmers need help. The talk here is really different than in normal agricultural talk would be when you are with your self alone on the farm. And here I can already sense that the struggles are very different. So my examples would be more on the farmers that are alone and even suicidal or getting depressed or don't have anybody to connect with. So these we have an amazing model in Finland called Välitä viljelijästä, care about the farmer. And a friend of mine have been building that up several years ago, and it's been proven to be one of the used models. So, but holistic management, I can't be happier that we have had worked with that. So thanks, Oliver, for bringing that up as well. I think that's a session of itself to be held, probably.
Yeah, and until we get a chance to revisit that, I'll point people to previous episodes that I did with Alan Savory and with a number of different hub leaders around Europe. Hedy, can you give us some examples of who you turn to as, what is possible, what can be achieved?
Well, if you ask me, anything can be achieved and everything is possible. We are our own limits, and I really mean that. I really do, because what we believe, we will manifest into our real lives. So if we don't believe we can do it, we won't. If we don't believe we want to, we won't. But if we do, we will, because I'm sure every single one of you guys and all of you listening, if you wanted something in your life, you really wanted something, you always got it. But if you decided you didn't want it anymore, you didn't get it. But every time we really wanted something and we went for it, we got it. So it's a mindset. And that mindset is also built on the same acceptance that if I do my best and it still doesn't happen the way I wanted, I still learned in the process. So it gave me something. But we have to understand that. We have to understand that we have to rely on ourselves and not get disappointed in ourselves. And we can do anything. I really believe that. I have seen it, and I will go so far and say that I have lived it.
I'm also curious as to what resources exist in different places. Michaela, you were talking about the resource that people can call and get support. Is anybody here, including in the group, aware of services in different parts of Europe to assist, whether it's, therapy or suicide hotlines? I know some of these exist here in Spain, whether they're social or private services that can offer guidance or support during this time. If nothing comes to mind right away, we can also put this in the chat. I'm sure this will end up being something of a directory by the end.
I'm sorry, I wasn't sure. Was it me?
If anybody's got examples, and then I'll go to Stephen's question right afterwards. Hedy, did you say you had some examples?
No, I was just confused if you were talking to me directly.
No, I want to open up to everybody because I'm sure there are some insights here beyond just the speakers too. But how about we let that one sit for a while? We'll see what shows up in the chat, and go ahead, Stephen, with your question.
Yeah, thanks, Oliver. And thanks, everyone, for your contributions this evening. I've been taking diligent notes, and as a new farmer here in Finland, I definitely see myself in Ole, your story about getting started here on your farm. And I think I have a lot to learn and even onboard from Hedy and Mickey. So I'm so grateful for you sharing this evening. I got really excited and even inspired. I'm curious if you could share a little bit more when you're talking about ego and virtue. How should I think about that as a farmer? And Mickey, maybe you could unpack a little bit more. You've mentioned this we and us. What is the difference, and how do you see that again in relation to holistic management and thinking as a farmer? Thank you.
Well, do you want to Hedy go first?
Oh, it doesn't. Okay. Well, the ego, that's actually the thing. We have to be aware of it, because it can be hard separating the ego and actually the activist heart, the thing that wants to do good, because ego also can take over and make you believe that you are doing this for the right causes and not then actually you're doing it to make yourself feel better. So the way we separate those things is by getting to know ourselves. I had a question once, which is actually a really good example. So how do I set my boundaries if I don't know them? I was asked this. And then my answer was, how would you get to know my boundaries? By testing them. So by testing your boundaries, you will get to know where they are. And if you don't have anything to test them with, start asking yourself questions. That will separate, do I want this for the right reasons? Or do I want this for reasons I pretended was right? You will know when you ask yourself those questions, is it my ego that wants a little pat on the head, or is it really something that I am passionate about, that I want to do because of this? That's the way to separate it, because if we don't know how we think and why we think that way, that means that it's basically not us thinking it. It's our ego thinking it for us to protect us. And as we talked about earlier, ego is a good thing. It's a good thing because it drives us, it protects us, but it also has a tendency to be a little bit like a bear mother. It takes over and wants to decide everything. So we have to ask ourselves questions. That's the best way to start. Why do I want this? Why do I want it this way? So we can separate the reasons.
Yeah, I could continue on that. That lots of the times we talk here that we learn to fly the avatars. So you kind of become aware of like how huge ego you have, and then you choose if you want to fly it or not. But so that the avatar doesn't fly you. So, for example, I'm aware that I love to do big things in the agricultural sector, and I've been doing stuff, but every now and then I step away, and I see if my life is more fulfilling, and if it's something I want to do, or if it's something I need to do. And those are two different things. Wanting comes always from the head. I want that. But what you need comes from the deeper. And then at the same time, do I really know what is ego and what is not? Maybe not. But I've been thinking that I try to live the life so that when I get old, I can say to myself, at least I tried to do my best. At least I tried to listen to my heart, and I did it with some amazing people. So who gives a shit if it was the ego or not? So that when you start kind of also playing the game that it's nice to be a human being and it's not so difficult in the end, maybe the one thing there that how would you know when you're aligned with your virtue is the sense of easiness. So even some very difficult things start to feel very easy when you're aligned. And it's also close to the ego, right, Hedy? So because it pulls you there, but there's a different kind of easiness. You're just there and things start to happen. And I think a lot of us have the experience because we've chosen to do something differently. And yeah, I like to play with the egos. Here in Rajatila, we don't leave them out. They're all welcome. And us, as I said, I think about them, we, like a closer group. Like if I would think circles, so you have the whole universe, and then you would have this world, and then your country, and then closer. So we would be my closest tribe, but us would be a bigger tribe around that. I don't know if it helps you, Stephen, but yeah. Thanks.
Stephen, do you have another question?
Yeah, maybe just quickly, reflecting on your point, Mickey, I'm thinking about what opportunities exist for us as farmers to share in the connection with soil, land, nature, Mother Earth. We've talked a lot about the focus on farmers and setting those boundaries and avoiding burnout, but do you see examples of other farmers that have successfully integrated means for others to reconnect with themselves, each other, and nature, perhaps even from a spiritual or a financial way? I'd be curious to hear some examples or experience here.
About farmers who have been connecting with the nature.
Who've
So that-
invited others to connect with nature because of the opportunity we have stewarding the land.
Well, I think there.
actually can jump in there.
Yes.
So we do the class trips for the school. So for the first, second, and sometimes third grade, they come every single week from March or end of March till October. They come to the farm every single week and just do a lot of different projects, from like cleaning out the animal stables to harvesting pumpkins, planting pumpkins, putting mulch on the pumpkins. So we try to involve the kids mainly in tasks where they cannot destroy anything by accident. So potato harvest, for instance, by hand is a grand task for kids. Getting the pumpkins out of the field, getting the sunflowers harvested, stuff like this is always a good thing. For class 3 in the Waldorf school, they have this class where they have to plant a cornfield, so that they're doing that on our field. So we're plowing with 30 kids in front of our little one sharp plow, and it's the best thing. They're coming here, they're loving it really. On the old farm, we already had a kindergarten, like a Bauernhof kindergarten, which my grandmother was running, and my mother from her old school as well was always bringing kids to the farm there. And we would just do a lot of projects with them, from everything from like camping trips in like grade 5, grade 6, to doing the standard practice, what's it called, interns, basically, from the Waldorf schools for 2 to 3 weeks we had on our farm, which was really lovely. And we're trying to get a bit more adults also into the farm, but we're still trying to figure out a system where we can get our hours paid in that way.
Yeah, it's I I think there are a lot of places, a lot of examples that use nature connection, and I want to say that the connection is never broken, but it's forgotten, and that's a different thing. We forget that we are part of nature. We're never separated. But in Finland, I would again say that there's some amazing research going, like Seppo Vainio's group, who they are looking at the nanoparticles of the cells, which remember, like they can connect with the remembrance of the food you eat. So if there is a organic carrot or a normal carrot, it will resonate differently with the memory of the cells of the body. So in the research, they are really doing this on the quantum field level. And I was looking at this guy like, is this real? And he's the head of that unit actually in the Eastern Finland. I think it's Eastern Finland University. So Stephen, as you asked, there are several farms, there are communities, more in the Europe but that help with the soil and nature connections, and I think we can use ourselves as an example. I hope you would really put the microphones on and tell why you're doing what you are, and also tell how nourishing it is. It's something we've forgotten. And it's Lisa, please, yes, open up your mic.
Yeah, come on in, Lisa.
Andre. It's not Lisa, it's Andre.
Oh, psych.
Yeah, but Lisa's here as well. So what I wanted to jump in to contribute here, that would be something that I'm a consultant, so I work with farmers, I will work with other consultants, and I'm also a farmer here at Lentila. And what I found for myself and what I found to be true for others is that we have neighbors and we have friends and we have that guy on the other side of the fence and we have people with similar interests. We have family, and those are the people the closest to us, the easiest to reach to when something happens, or when there's something that we need to vent, or we need to cry, or we need a kick in the butt to straighten up. And those we should remember, as we we should hope that they would remember us when they need it, because nobody we all want to help. It's just that we need somebody to ask for that help. And I think it's, yeah, we have forgotten that.
That's a really good insight. I appreciate you jumping in there, Andre. And I think that's also a really good place for us to wrap up, because the power of community is exactly what we're doing these sessions to highlight, right? The conversations that are happening in our groups and the peer-to-peer learning that is fundamental to the reason why we have a community is the motivation for all of these things. And just like Andre just mentioned, they come through for us in all the ways that naturally everyone's going to struggle with sooner or later. And we also then have the opportunity to contribute as well and be that support for other people. And one of the most common things that we were finding when Climate Farmers was still in its infancy is that all of these incredible pioneers felt like they were alone where they were, because they often struggled to find people who were like-minded in their area, or who understood the journey that they were trying to undertake and the added complexity that they were adding to their workload based on a vision and some ethics that were guiding them. And that is the real motivation for why we do what we do. And for any of you out there who are looking for more community connection, it's free to join our network. And we have a growing list of resources and support mechanisms for people who are in transition. And very soon, we're going to be launching some educational programs that are based around the community as a core, so that we can continue to learn together and support one another in these difficult times, even though the work that we're doing is so important and so needed. So I want to take the opportunity to thank all of you, not only who showed up to speak and to ask questions, but who came to learn as well. It's this type of participation and engagement that makes the community so great. And I hope that you'll find an opportunity to share these resources with maybe somebody in your network who could use the motivation, or could help, or could use some help navigating the situation that they're in. We will be publishing this both on the Climate Farmers YouTube channel and on the Regenerative Skills podcast. And we do these every month. So if there are topics that you're interested in, if you want to recommend speakers, we try and open this up to the community, both in the WhatsApp groups where we chat and through our network in the larger space through LinkedIn. And we look forward to furthering these conversations there, because obviously we only covered just a small snippet of what is a very deep topic. And so let's keep this conversation and engagement going on those different platforms. And I hope all of you have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much for coming, and have a good night.
Good night.
Take care, everyone.
Thank
And
you.
Right.
take good care
You
of
too. Good
yourself. Go
night.
get some rest.
You too. Let's take care of each other.
Yeah, go talk to a neighbor.
There you
Yeah.
go. All right. Take care, everyone.